Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to our latest explainer. Today, we're taking a look at a massive, frankly fascinating digital coming-of-age story. We're tracking the evolution of malware. We're going to journey from the days of simple, almost playful coding experiments all the way up to the highly intelligent, adaptive threats we're facing right now. If you've ever wondered how we got from annoying little computer glitches to sophisticated global cyber attacks, you are absolutely in the right place.
We'll be tracking this threat chapter by chapter. We'll start with the age of experiments, move into when the network spreads fast, look at the rise of remote control, the ransomware boom, stealth and smart AI, and finally, the future of defense. Let's get right to it.
Now, malware definitely didn't start out as the complex beast it is today. Back in the 1980s, we had early viruses. Then the 2000s brought us worms. 2010 gave us botnets, and by 2015, we hit the ransomware boom. 2020 shifted things into stealth attacks, and looking toward 2026, we're fully entering the era of AI malware. The biggest takeaway here is that malicious code has constantly evolved right alongside technology itself. As our tools got better, well, so did the threats.
Chapter 1: The Age of Experiments.
I want you to picture those old, bulky computer monitors, screens filled with glowing green text and that super distinct clicking sound of a floppy disk sliding into a drive. Because during this first wave in the 80s and 90s, the threats were remarkably basic. They literally spread manually. You had to physically hand a floppy disk to someone, or later on, send a very specific email attachment. Hackers weren't necessarily out to steal millions of dollars yet. These early viruses were mostly created out of pure curiosity. They wanted to annoy users, trigger goofy warning pop-ups, or just show off their coding skills. Most of them were functionally harmless, but they proved one massive foundational concept that changed everything. Code could replicate and spread from machine to machine completely out of control.
Chapter 2: The network spreads fast. As the internet grew, the rules changed.
Imagine global network maps suddenly just lighting up with red alerts, connections firing across oceans in milliseconds. We aren't passing floppy disks anymore. Now, what's really interesting here is the stark contrast between how these two things operated. On one hand, early viruses required a human to actually do something, click a link, open a file, insert a disk. But internet worms, they introduced automation. The big idea here is that worms didn't need us to click a single thing. They exploited the newly connected internet to spread automatically across global networks, jumping from machine to machine with terrifying speed. And the real-world consequences of this incredibly fast spread were totally unprecedented. Because these worms replicated so aggressively and so automatically, they consumed massive amounts of bandwidth. They weren't just annoying individuals anymore. They were shutting down critical systems. This massive speed caused global disruptions, forcing internet traffic around the world to crawl to an absolute halt. The sheer volume of the spread basically became a weapon in itself.
Which brings us to Chapter 3, Rise of Remote Control. By 2010, the next major change arrived. Cybercriminals realized that simple, noisy disruption wasn't the best way to operate. There was incredible value in silence. They moved into the shadows to build dark, connected networks. To really understand this era, we have to look at a critical concept, the botnet. Think of this as a sprawling network of zombie computers. If your computer was infected, an attacker could control it remotely from halfway across the world. And you, sitting right in front of the screen, would probably have absolutely no idea. Millions of these infected devices were secretly hijacked and chained together. The big idea in this era was this really dangerous shift toward hidden remote control. Attackers weaponized these botnets to power massive, global spam email campaigns. But even worse, they facilitated large-scale cybercrime operations, launching coordinated attacks using the combined processing power of millions of innocent people's laptops and servers. Chapter 4: The Ransomware Boom. Then came a shift. Instead of hiding, malware demanded payment. Instead of quietly lurking in the background like a botnet, malware stepped right into the spotlight. We're talking terrifying giant red lock screens and ransom notes demanding Bitcoin. The real-world human consequences of this money-driven era simply cannot be overstated. This wasn't about spam emails anymore. Vital files were encrypted and literally held hostage. Entire companies were forced offline, bleeding millions of dollars. And the most sobering reality? Hospitals were targeted. These attacks completely shut down their digital systems, locked doctors out of patient records, and forced emergency rooms to actually divert ambulances. Millions lost their data, and the financial and physical impacts were just immense. Chapter 5: stealth and smart AI. Moving into the 2020s, the landscape shifts again. The loud, screaming lock screens of ransomware start to share the stage with something much, much quieter. Picture vast corporate servers where invisible lines of code are infiltrating the deepest layers of global supply chains. So the crucial point is that modern attackers started prioritizing stealth above almost everything else. They developed supply chain attacks, infecting a trusted software vendor so the malware would automatically push down to thousands of clients. They created fileless malware that leaves almost zero trace on a hard drive. And they perfected advanced persistent threats. The whole goal here was to stay completely hidden inside a corporate or government system for months, just quietly observing, learning, and extracting valuable data before anyone even noticed a breach.
Which brings us to the bleeding edge of our timeline. I want you to think about this question for a second. What happens when malware actually learns to adapt? What happens when the code isn't just following a static set of rules, but is actually learning from its environment? Well, the chilling modern reality is that we're now in the AI era. Today's malware uses automation and AI-like techniques to dynamically adapt its own code so it can slip right past security scanners. But it's not just the code getting smarter, the delivery methods are too. Attackers are using AI to generate flawless, highly targeted phishing messages. They're using cloned voices and deepfakes to trick employees into handing over passwords. The big idea here is that modern attacks are smarter, they are highly adaptive, and they are incredibly convincing. Chapter 6: The Future of Defense. We've seen the threats grow from simple floppy disks to artificial intelligence, but we aren't helpless. And this brilliantly illustrates the cycle we're locked into. Look at this progression. Step 1, technology creates a brand new capability, like global networking or AI. Step 2, attackers adapt that technology to build smarter threats. But Step 3 is where we come in. Users maintain awareness to defend themselves. This is a continuous evolutionary arms race between smart systems and smart attackers. But human vigilance? That remains a critical circuit breaker. Technology evolves, and so do threats. It's a fundamental truth of the digital age. But remember this, awareness is your first and often your most effective layer of defense. By understanding how these attacks have grown over the decades, you're already better equipped to spot the next one. So ask yourself, is your awareness keeping pace with the technology you use every single day? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, stay vigilant, and I'll see you next time.